7 o'clock, and I'm going to call the January 26th meeting of the Planning Commission in Forest Lake to order. Could you please call the roll?
Chair Gerard is not here. Commissioner Young.
Here.
Commissioner Batty. Commissioner Miller.
Here.
Commissioner Keen. Commissioner Brink.
Here.
Commissioner Kubal.
Here. In the absence of the chairman, I will be chairing the meeting this evening. For those of us who can, could you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioners, I was informed by staff that due to an error in the administrative filing of the public hearing notice, we are going to strike item 7 on the agenda. We'll be striking discussion of 1055 7th Street Southeast, the minimum lot width variance application. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda striking that particular item?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, please?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I am looking for thoughts about the Planning Commission meeting minutes from January 12th, 22. Are there any changes, errors, omissions, discussions? Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay. 3 aye and 1 abstention. Item number 6 is 767 Lake Street South. It's a conditional use permit application. We're going to be getting some information from staff. I'm going to hold a public hearing, and then we will consider the conditional use permit. In between staff's presentation and when I open the public hearing, if there's anybody here that wishes to speak about the item, we'll invite them up to the podium. Go for it, sir.
Thank you, Chair Young, and good evening to the Planning Commission. We have a conditional use permit request for the property located at 767 Lake Street South. This conditional use permit request is for to permit dog grooming services on this property within the MU2, which is the General Mixed Use Zoning District. Just as a little bit of background for the Commission, this applicant, her name is Marie Motez. She is the owner of Ma and Pa's Pet Grooming. They have been in business in the city since approximately 2010 and have since expanded to have about 10 employees at their location. That is actually currently within the city that they are leasing. So they're looking to purchase this property and operate their dog grooming business from it. So as stated, this property is located within the General Mixed Use MU2 district. In this district, this use is not expressly listed as one of those permitted uses that's allowed by right. So the applicant reached out to staff, and staff guided the applicant towards the conditional use permit process to allow for the Planning Commission to review the acceptability of that land use at this location. Typically, for the Commission's information, this business has pets inside for approximately 2 hours at a time. Pets are never allowed to stay overnight. And this is all according to the narrative provided to staff. Pets are never allowed outside the building for safety. Pets are to be leashed or kenneled by their owners when they are entering or exiting the building. And there are no openings of doors and windows during business hours. So as it relates to the use, there are several considerations that are kind of enumerated here in the staff report on the use. As this use is not expressly listed, staff kind of assessed it based on some of the similarities that it shares to other uses that are established in city code. So Of course, this is more of a service-based business. However, there are dogs being groomed on site, which are expressly listed in the definition of a commercial kennel. Now, staff also believe that this use is not similar to a commercial kennel in its function necessarily. So there is definitely some differences between this use and that one. And in addition, there are some similarities to veterinary uses, just in the sense of having animals coming and going from the site. So that is the reason that staff guided this particular applicant towards the conditional use permit. One other thing to mention is parking. In situations where there isn't a parking calculation listed in the code, staff will kind of come up with a similar calculation based on the type of use. So through that, staff ended up calculating that 11 spaces would be required for this business, and the applicant is stating that there are 18 spaces available on site. So it does appear that they would satisfy parking requirements. Conditional use permits require neighborhood meetings. One was held on January 13th here at City Hall, and there were not many attendees. Approximately 3 people were in attendance, including the applicant. So findings of fact are proposed for the Planning Commission in the staff report, and staff do recommend approval of this request with a condition that parking spaces be marked subject to the requirements in city code, and the CUP is recorded with Washington County. So that's all I have prepared for you. Happy to take any questions.
Do the commissioners have any questions? Ms. Montez, are you here tonight? Is there anyone here who wishes to speak for the applicant, if there are any questions? All right. Therefore, I'm going to open the public hearing. We are holding a public hearing regarding the consideration of a conditional use permit at 767 Lake Street South. Are there any that wish to speak regarding that conditional use permit during the public hearing for it? Karen, do we have anyone online?
I have one person online. Julie, if you can hear me and you would like to speak about this particular public hearing, please either note that in the chat or turn your mute off. I'm not sure. Give me 1 second here. I apologize if this shocks everybody's
Not a problem.
ears.
I don't really have any comments about this, other than when do they open?
And the applicant hasn't told us that yet.
I think it would actually be a good addition to our community, just personally.
And could we have name and address, please?
Oh, mine?
Yes, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, Julie Severson, Severson. My address is 6511 207th Street North, Forest Lake, Minnesota.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the commission during the public hearing regarding this conditional use permit application? Karen, is there anyone else?
No one else.
All right. Seeing no one else online and hearing no one else in the room, I'm going to close the public hearing. Commissioners,
I move to accept the staff recommendation and allow the continual, whatever you call it, use permit, conditional use permit,
subject to the staff recommendations.
subject to the staff recommendations.
I'll second.
All right. The motion, we have a motion and it has been seconded to approve the conditional use permit, subject to the 2 staff recommendations. All in favor, please?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Shall we speak now about item number 8, the Hidden Creek Phase 1 preliminary plat? We will also be holding a public hearing for this particular item. Same general rules will apply. You'll be making a presentation. If there's anybody from the applicant that wishes to speak, we will hear that. I'll hold the public hearing. Anyone that wishes to speak in the public hearing, we'll invite them up to make their comments.
All right, thank you, Chair. I'm going to begin presenting here, so give it a second. So as the screens come online, this is a preliminary plat request for the development called Hidden Creek Phase 1 in the city here. This request comes after a concept plan which was recently reviewed by the Planning Commission in the fall. So this property is located within the city on land that is, the base zoning district for this area is MXR1, which is residential, single-family, and townhouse district, mixed residential, single-family, and townhouse district. This area is within the Headwaters Area Master PUD, and I'll get to what that means for this area in a second. So as stated, this was recently reviewed in the concept phase by the Planning Commission. This project has been through several iterations over the last several years, and the applicants have worked closely with city staff over the last number of months to put forward this preliminary plat application. The developer is seeking to develop this 72-acre area with 125 single-family lots. So these are single-family residential lots. The purpose of preliminary plat review, as established in the city code, is essentially to review information pertinent to the proposed development furnished by the developer. The review is done by staff, consultants, advisory committees, the council, and applicable agencies and the public. So I'll get into a zoning review of this development quickly. I'm going to bring up page 2 of the staff report and zoom in on the table, which I'll present in a second. So this development is comprised of, as I said, about 72 acres, 72 and about a third to be exact. There is a net developable acre area of 57.15 acres, so that would be the overall minus basically undevelopable wetlands. This has resulted in a density in this proposal of 2.19 units per acre. The land use and the density are consistent with the requirements of the city code, the Headwaters Master PUD, and the comprehensive plan, excuse me. The density is considered on the aggregate in the city to be consistent with the emerging suburban edge status that Forest Lake has. Okay, so now to this table. On this table, you can see the different standards that are permitted or required in the MXR1 zoning district. The cursor is circling those now. The Headwaters PUD was initially approved in 2006, and construction started in that area shortly thereafter, so that master PUD is still in effect for this area. The master PUD grants deviations to the MXR1 standards, and it goes down the list from lot area, which is 15,000 as the standard, and the deviation permitted is 7,000. We go on down. Lot width 65 feet, setbacks front 25 feet, setbacks for the rear yard 25, setbacks on the side 10 on the house side and 5 on the garage side. So those are the standards that are being proposed by the developer. The developer's standards are consistent with the Headwaters Master PUD. All right, and I'm just going to bring up an image of the site while I talk about the rest of this. So what you see on the screen here is an image that was provided by the developer after the staff report was published. It's primarily just an illustrative image that represents the information that's in the preliminary plat plans. So The Headwaters Master PUD is effectively serving, in this case, as a preliminary PUD. So a final PUD application will be expected when this project moves forward, and that's kind of discussed in the staff report here. I'm going to move on to Parkland Dedication, and I'll kind of walk through some of the highlights of this, and of course, the developer is here this evening and can provide you a little bit more of an overview of the development, but we do have what you see here is the development. The red lines represent bituminous sidewalks. The orange lines that run along the roadways here represent concrete sidewalks. In the southern part of this development, you can see a park. This park is proposed as 2.78 acres. The Parkland Dedication total required area is 5.72 acres. So what is being proposed here is a combination of Parkland Dedication of this area you see on the image here, plus a cash in lieu fee that will be estimated at the time of final plat. So I'll pause if there are any questions so far.
I have a question about the map on page 52 of our, or 51 of our packet, and this map here that you have. If there's a trail that's kind of shown in the middle of the,
Yep.
and then here it's shown near the edge.
That's a good question. So the location of that trail has over time changed. At one time, it was going to be north of this. This is essentially serves as a drainage swale between the east and west portions of this development. It connects two wetlands. That trail was initially proposed on the north side of that, and it's now proposed in the south side of that drainage area, and it will serve as a way to connect both sides of this development with the park that's proposed.
Okay, so then if I'm looking at the map on page 51, it's in
Okay.
the middle, and that's not accurate, is from just.
Yeah, I think when you're looking at page 51, you're talking about the red line down the middle of the
No,
development?
no, I'm talking about the green line that
Okay.
says trail, right in the middle of that blue section.
So what you see on the image on the screen right now, this is the location that the trail
That's
will
the
be
location,
proposed.
okay. And then red is bituminous or concrete?
Bituminous.
Okay,
If there are no other questions, I'll continue.
okay.
As to the woodland preservation for this site, typically we will see a woodland preservation plan submitted with preliminary plats. In this case, there are no significant trees or woodlands on site, so a woodland preservation plan was not required of the developer. Similarly, with landscaping requirements, there's no landscaping proposed in addition to what will eventually be required for residential lots. So a landscaping plan was not required of the developer. However, it is the understanding and expectation of staff that landscaping will be required as these lots are built. Signage is also not being proposed for this subdivision. In terms of the staging of this development, the first phase will begin construction sometime around spring, summer of 2022, after entitlements are received. And I'll let the developer kind of go into that in more detail. A neighborhood meeting was held associated with this item on January 12th. There were a number of residents that were in attendance. They were asking a number of different questions of the developer. Those questions were centered on the phasing of the development, wetlands in the area, drainage from this development and others, stormwater ponding, Parkland dedication, and public infrastructure. Some of the concerns that staff heard specifically were related to cut-through traffic that would be a result of construction activities. Those are kind of the high points there. Next steps for this would be to submit a final PUD plan in association with a final plat. So staff reviewed for the preliminary plat criteria of denial and did not find that this subdivision meets those criteria. Engineering comments, there's a long memo that's included in this staff report. The engineering team did a lot of review on this from when the application was first submitted all the way up to right before the staff report was published. So as such, there is still some information that we are looking to work through, but generally, we find as staff that this is compatible with the city standards, and have provided a recommendation to approve this conditional upon the conditions that are established in the staff report, which include resubmitting and revising various submittals. So that's really all I have formally prepared for you. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them.
For the planning commission, there are also watershed comments that we'll have to make sure to take into account. Yes, ma'am.
On page 52 of the maps that I was looking at, there's red and green. I don't understand what the difference between red and green are.
So what you're looking at is a grading plan that was submitted by the developer. That is reviewed by the city's stormwater staff and engineering staff. Things that they're looking for, I don't review those things myself as a planner, but things they're looking for are essentially making sure that the grading is suitable for what's being proposed.
Okay, so then would red mean unsuitable and they need to do something?
No, those are just kind of things that are on there for showing various grading. They're not like red is bad and green is good.
Okay,
I can't go too much more into detail just because that's not my area of expertise.
okay.
Typically, where you need to lower an area, raise an area. as
Yeah, I
part
was
of-
just wondering if it, because there's nothing on the map that says what those colors mean. So I just want to make sure I understand it, because
Yes, and I
Red.
appreciate that.
red usually means stop and green means go. So if I see a lot of red, I'm like, okay.
Commissioners, do you have any other questions for staff? Sir, would you like to make any comments prior to the public hearing?
Good evening, Commissioners. John Dobbs, Development Consulting Services. I work for Paul Bergman. I appreciate all of the effort. Staff's really worked very hard as we have to try to kind of work through a lot of the things. I just submitted the graphic because we just wanted something that was a little bit cleaner. The amount of detail in all the plans was pretty intense. The one thing that has been, the staff has really gone the extra mile to try to help us work through is the drainage way, trailway through the middle, which I think what you were talking about, is currently a pipe in the ground. It's a drain tile from Rice Creek Watershed. And that's in the process of being actually transferred over, and then we're going to incorporate it into the stormwater pond and remove the pipe, and so the grading is kind of all worked through a little bit. And then when I was here as a concept review, Commissioner Young in particular, but others had questions about how does the trails connect and what is the sidewalk connection and the trail connection to the north. And so I just, because I told her I would at the last meeting, is just really make a graphic that really made this stuff stand out so that we could comment and talk about it and I could work my way through that. And so that's what I tried to accomplish. So the graphic is a graphic. The design detail drawings that you're looking at is a work in progress, and it's been an immense amount of work, both from the staff's point of view as well as from our engineers. And we're working through Rice Creek Watershed as well, and we'll obviously meet everybody's criteria. So, in terms of the neighborhood meeting, it was a great dialogue. A lot of people to the north, they're very concerned about just because they didn't know. And so they just kind of wanted to talk through the process. So our plan is we're going to grade the whole site. We kind of have to do that to make everything work. And then the east half basically is what's going to become street, sewer, water lots this year. And then the west half would be in 2023. But to kind of balance the dirt and make everything work, we'll be grading the whole site this year with permits and oversight from the city and permission from the city as well. So that's kind of our timeline. And then, a lot of the questions that I heard the neighbors asking about was they were very concerned about traffic. They didn't want us to connect, and I understand that comment, but I don't have much say in that. They're very concerned about an existing stormwater pond that's on the northeast corner of this project, but not inside the project itself, because apparently the water sits and is very stagnant there. They were concerned that we would be touching it or encroaching into it, or they're not happy, and I don't want to speak for people, but what I heard them say was they weren't happy about the existing condition, and they were also concerned if we were going to do anything with it. We aren't going to touch it, and I can't help them with the existing condition personally. I'm happy if somebody has a suggestion from the city or from Rice Creek to maybe somehow deal with that, if there's a way to deal with that, but we didn't do any hydrologic studies on it. So that was really, in a lot of ways, most of the comments I heard was related to traffic and related to that pond. They were also concerned, I think, about the landowner who owns the property, Mr. Taylor, had a permit from Rice Creek Watershed to remove black dirt from the existing wetland, and he's been out there doing that work for a while. And I think there was some residents that were concerned or confused about that work versus what we're proposing. So I talked about that a bit as well. I think those were the big ones that I heard. So, yeah, I'm happy to answer any specific questions or anything that I can do. We're very much looking forward to trying to put this project in the ground. It's got a lot of open space. It's got a lot of pedestrian access. The lots themselves are out of the floodplain. We've interacted with Rice Creek Watershed, have a reasonable idea of what they're looking for. Yeah, it's going to be a beautiful site. So yeah, please, if I have any questions or anything I can help you with, I'm happy to do it. But once again, it's just a graphic just to give you a better sense so I could talk more clearly about where trails are and where sidewalk is, and how would somebody in the upper left-hand corner get down to the park? What would that experience be like? How would they actually get in there? And then how would they get back to their house? It was the question I heard asked of me about a month and a half ago when I was here.
Commissioners, do any of you have any questions of Mr. Dodd?
It might not be for him, but it might be just something I'm curious about. The Bituminous Trail, it looks like it's in the front of some people's yards. That's the red
Going
line.
up to the north?
Well, all of it. Is that in the front of people's yards?
Yes.
Okay. So is that something that then will need to be shoveled, and is a bituminous surface one that is readily shovelable by people, or is that something that's going to be done by like an association to take care of that?
There is no association, so we don't have a vehicles community-wide that would take care of that. That's an excellent question. Staff has directed us all along that we needed to connect a trail from Headwaters Parkway up to the subdivision on the north, because there's a loop trail system community-wide that goes up that way. And so we've shown it as a bituminous trail. I'm assuming it's 8 feet or 6 feet wide. I don't know what the city standard is for the bituminous trail. But I don't know that I personally have not thought that part through. How do you guys?
Yeah,
deal
I
with
think for the most
trails?
part, we plow those trails as much as we can. It may take a day or two after the snowstorm to do so. If we don't, we'll welcome any resident that wants to shovel their trail to do so. But, you know, an asphalt trail is shovelable. Shovelable? You can shovel it as well as concrete.
And asphalt is just, you know, the same surface that most of the roads are. Sidewalks are to be shoveled by the resident, trails typically by the city.
Okay, and so then when people move in, somebody who doesn't know something like that doesn't necessarily know the difference or the responsibility with that. So how would that get communicated to the people that are moving in, what their responsibility might be as it relates to their particular, because, you know, if I have the cement and I have to shovel and they have the tar and they don't, I'd be like, well, you know, it's
Yeah, so
confusing.
that would be something you would want to know before you buying the house and buying the lot.
Yeah, and I just wonder how that information would be communicated.
Right now, we do not have the property sold, but we've been in discussion with D.R. Horton to build the houses. One of the meetings we had, we put some concepts up. I will absolutely get copies of the ordinance that talk about sidewalk and bituminous trail and what the city typically does, and make sure the builder gets it. If there's a sign, I don't know if do we sign the bituminous trails in other places when they go through neighborhoods? I guess if there's a standard, we'll certainly do that as well.
I don't think we particularly sign the trails to say that they're going to be plowed or anything like that, so.
So we will communicate to the builder. I will absolutely make sure that happens.
We have signed trails in some areas, and it might not be a bad idea here, because sometimes these trails are meant for the entire city to use. And sometimes residents of an area don't understand that they have a trail that anyone in the city or quite frankly in the county can use. It is a public use. And so they become concerned when somebody from not in the neighborhood uses the trails. But those trails are meant for public use.
And I have a question about, when we talk about long-term costs, ultimately, I don't know what the difference between concrete and bituminous or tar would be at this point, but if we're having a burden of some people doing their sidewalks and a city burden with these other ones, that's an ongoing commitment that the city's gonna have to make to clear those. And so would it be, is the cost that much more to just do it all in cement? So that it's really clear whose responsibility it in? I mean, I guess I didn't know the difference between 8 feet and maybe 2 feet either, but,
Yeah, it's not a matter of the material, the difference of cost savings between concrete and bituminous. It's the difference on the surface. If you ever rode a bike down a concrete sidewalk, it's right? So strollers, bicycles, walkers, it's a smoother, less impactful, it's just a better ride. That's why
I
it's
get
done.
that.
That's why it's done. You couldn't do that with concrete. You still have to have seams and break points of the concrete.
okay, and then the city's okay with wanting to take on that burden?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, that's understood.
Okay.
Commissioner, you've heard me talk about the costs of having additional houses in the community. This is part of it. Are there any other questions from commissioners of Mr. Dodd? Mr. Bergerman, did you have any comments you wanted to make? Okay.
Thank you.
All right. If there are no other comments, questions of either staff or the applicant, I'm going to open the public hearing. This is a public hearing regarding the Hidden Creek Phase 1 preliminary plat. Anybody who has a comment regarding this preliminary plat is invited up to the podium. I'll ask for your name and your address. Please feel free to make comments. Is there anybody that wishes to speak about this one? Karen, do you have anybody online that would be interested?
I still have the same person online. If you want to comment, Julie, feel free to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. I actually do have a question. This is Julie Severson, same address as before, 65119 207th Street North. Would you be able to show a map of where this proposed development falls in relation to Lakes International Language Academy and the library? I guess I'm trying to figure out where this development is going,
Give me a second.
and I don't know if it would.
Yeah, give us
We're
a second.
swapping
We're bringing
laptops
up.
so that we can get you an area map. And Julie, are you able to watch, are you watching online also?
I am, yes.
Okay, so the reason your screen went blank was so that we could switch laptops. And do you now see an area map?
So approximately right where the arrow is, going in circles.
I am not seeing that. I see all of you. No, it's blank with my screen.
No,
Are you sharing your screen?
Oh, I probably not.
There.
it's up now.
Okay,
Yes.
so if you see where the arrow is going in circles,
The cursor.
cursor,
I do.
that's where the proposed development is. And here's the Language Academy. Does that help?
Okay, and then, Julie, if you follow the Headwaters Parkway, the road that is split, if you follow that, you'll go down toward the Y and the transit center.
Here's the Y and the transit center right in this area here.
Okay, I see. Okay.
There's the Language Academy,
Yep, that makes
and
sense.
here's the development.
Okay. I have a little bit of delayed reaction here between my screen
Yep.
and the map, but it works eventually.
Yeah, it's about a 20-second delay.
Julie, in addition to the question, was there a comment that you wish to make?
No, I guess I was more worried about the elementary school and any sort of impact that it would have on the buses and the people getting to and from school. I know that they do rely on busing from the Forest Lake school district. So, you know, anything Forest Lake does, Leela relies on. So I was just kind of worried about the impact of getting the kids to school, the buses, traffic in general in that area.
This,
As it
this will
relates to
not,
the
this
elements.
is not going to affect Fenway or the Parkway, except that as Forest Lake grows, we are having more homes and more peoples and more cars. But the travel between Highway 97 or Highway 61 and the Upper Academy there on Fenway, there should be no effect other than the additional traffic of
Okay.
any homes.
Okay, that was my big concern. Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the audience here that has a, yes, sir?
Tom Campbell, 4791 200th Court North in Forest Lake. Question is more of a grading concern. I'm just on the north side of this here, and kind of the concern is me and most of the neighbors on the north side there. Walkout lots, and there's a lot of, I don't hear my sump pump in the summertime. I get worried. It's one of those that runs quite frequently, and I guess my one concern is just grading to make sure that there's not any additional water flow heading to the north.
Now, if you can bring up the, one of the schematics, as you see here, the ponds are all on the south side, and that's where the drainage is supposed to go for this subdivision.
The water, by our ordinances, is required to either be contained on site or to a regional pond. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments regarding this particular development? And Karen, nothing else online?
Nothing else.
Okay. Hearing nothing further, I'm going to close the public hearing. The public hearing is now closed. Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
I'd like to make a motion. I like at our last meeting, they came back with lots of the stuff we talked about, and it looks good. So I'd like to make a motion for the approval of the Hidden Creek Phase 1 preliminary plat to go to the city council with the 4 conditions listed.
We have,
Second.
okay, we have many conditions by the city engineer, and then there are also watershed conditions yet to be determined. Are those included in your,
Yeah, they're covered under number 2, I believe, for the watershed.
And one would include
And
city
one would
engineer
include the city.
concerns.
very good. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Is there any discussion regarding the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, and on to the next phase.
Can I ask for clarification on the second?
Yes.
That was,
Seconded, thank you.
Okay. We're at agenda item 9, the concept plan review for the, I believe it's Teets Farm? All right.
that is correct. Thank you, Chair. So this is a concept plan for a subdivision in the southeastern area of the city. This concept plan represents an area of approximately 140 acres that is split across 3 parcels currently. This land has been referred to in the past by staff as the Lemons property. I don't know if that strikes, is familiar to anyone. This area, this 140 acre area, has a substantial amount of wetlands running across it. It is part of a much larger wetland complex in this area of the city. So these applicants are seeking to subdivide this land to create 4 parcels which would be used for residential purposes. So I'm going to bring the concept plan up. And so here on the screen, you can see the concept plan. And again, the purpose of concept plan review is simply to obtain sort of review comments and initial comments from the Planning Commission and staff on these items. So getting into a zoning review of this request, the land use is consistent with the permitted uses within the zoning districts underlying, and in addition to that, the comprehensive plan, future land uses. The densities proposed do appear to meet, generally speaking, the densities that are guided for within the city. In terms of performance standards, these lots do appear to meet the area requirements. Lots 1 and 2, you can see in sort of smaller writing here on the screen. They're in the southern area part of this development. They would be, the minimum is 20 acres in size, and they are much larger. They're on the order of 50 plus acres. Again, much of that is wetland area. Lots 3 and 4 on the northern part of this site are have a 10-acre minimum, and they appear to meet that as well. The lot widths for these lots all appear to be acceptable. One unique part of this specific request is that lots 1 and 2 on the bottom here are not shown with a public access. So lots in the city do require a public frontage, and a variance would be required for these lots to be approved. So the city engineer and city public works department have had an opportunity to review for this request, and the city is not interested in expanding the public roads in this area, because that would create a maintenance obligation. So it does appear that it's possible findings could be made to support such a variance. In terms of Parkland Dedication, it's expected that these lots would be paying cash in lieu fees. Engineering comments are provided in the memo that's attached to the staff report. One thing to point out is that it is expected by engineering staff that improvements would be made to Imperial Avenue at the cost of the developer. Washington County also provided some comments that are included in this report. The Minnesota DNR was approached for comment on this concept plan and has not provided anything as of today. And then the next steps for this particular request would be to go through the subdivision variance process for that public frontage requirement, and through the preliminary and final plat process. So staff recommendation is simply to review this request and provide the developer with comments on its acceptability. The developer and the applicants are all here this evening in the event there are questions.
Commissioners, do you have questions of Nathan?
Not yet.
Nathan, did staff talk about requiring dedicated easements for those, permanently dedicated easements?
Yes.
For those private roads? We've had challenges in the past, and I'll tell you that I have a bias against them because of that.
Yeah, driveway easements would be required for those shared, that private road.
Nathan, could they come back at a later date if we, worked with this and then redevelop those parcels as well in the smaller lots?
These parcels are guided for conservation, and they're also in the, mostly in the conservation zoning district. So they're very limited in terms of what can be done in this area. So the short answer right now is no, you could not come in and redevelop with smaller parcels.
Are there any other questions of Nathan?
I have a concern, and maybe it's just because I don't understand. We're taking 3 parcels and making 4, but we're just changing the configuration of one and then cutting the other 2 instead of like vertical, horizontal. Is that kind of what we're doing? And so there was no road to get to any of that before because, like, what could they have done with that small rectangle parcel if it just stayed the way it was?
Are you referring to this one?
No, in the way it is now. There's
Okay,
three
I'm gonna
parcels.
pull up a GIS map, so give me a moment and we can look at the existing conditions. Okay, so these parcels represent the, hold on a moment. The parcels that are involved here, and you can see the existing conditions under them. The reason that this large parcel, which is primarily, you can see a lot of wetland in there, the reason that this is involved is because due to the zoning requirements, this smaller parcel cannot be subdivided and meet the minimum lot area requirements of 20 acres per parcel. So because of that, the applicants are seeking to use this larger parcel to meet that minimum lot area. And staff are recommending that wetland easements be dedicated to prevent any encroachment into these wetland areas in the future.
Okay, then with the smaller rectangle, just to the right of, or the left of that, there's no road there existing right now. But if somebody were to develop that piece as it stands, would they have to get then an easement to develop that part anyway? Or would the city be required to put something in because that's a piece of property that somebody has the right?
A developer would be required to provide access. So
Okay.
what we're reviewing is simply the developer is proposing an alternative for access to these parcels.
And the only access is on that,
It's off of Imperial Avenue, which you can see
okay.
that runs north-south
All right.
here.
that answers my question, thank you.
Yep.
Are there any other questions of Nathan? Would the applicants and owners like to make a statement or tell us anything about what you're trying to do? Again, when you come up, just your names and addresses, please.
Okay. My name is Kathy Tidball, maiden name Teets, so that's where Teets Farm comes in. I live in Forest Lake here, 568 2nd Avenue Northwest. And this is my sister Connie. My dad is back there. This is a private development. We're just building 4 homes for our family. We went through a big loss in our family a year and a half ago. We had another sister. She was diagnosed with cancer and passed away. So our lives really changed, and this is something that we have dreamt of as a family. And we found this land and we fell in love with it. It's absolutely beautiful. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. So it's going to be 4 family homes, all of us. We have met a lot of the neighbors around there because we spend a lot of time over there. They're very happy that it's a family coming in and not a big developer who wants to come in and try to put in as many houses as they can squeeze in there. So we've met them, we've spent time with some of them, so we're excited about that too. So that's just a little background on what it is. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah. Yes, I'm Connie Tanner. My address is 209 Oak Grove Lane, Matamidi, Minnesota, and I'm excited to move to the north part of the county. I work for Washington County, so I'm invested in this community as well, and I'm excited to move up here. But just to reiterate what Kathy said, like we are a family development, and we can't wait to live close to each other like this. And, really a part of this too, we really want to conserve this land. We've already spent so much time out there. We hike out there every weekend and skated on the pond this weekend. So we're really excited to do this. So thank you for having us here and for reviewing this.
Commissioners, any questions of these folks? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Kevin Gardner. I'm with Pierce Pini Civil Engineering, so I'm working with the applicants on the development of this plan. Staff has been very helpful so far in kind of forming this concept. It's gone through several iterations already to meet the zoning requirements. As we move forward, and hopefully we can talk about today, the 2 items that would help ourselves and the applicants is to kind of get a feel for the variance. Certainly that's a big challenge with this piece, given it has very limited access, the odd configuration of this parcel. And some clarification on the Imperial Avenue improvements. The staff report indicates that there's some sort of, it's a big dollar commitment to improve Imperial Avenue. It's, 1,400 feet long. They're requesting a seal coat and chip seal of that road. That's probably a improvement getting close to 6 figures. So I'd just like some more information, I guess, on how, is that solely the developer's responsibility? Is there a cost sharing with the other people that use Imperial Avenue? It's just some clarification on how the city addresses that process, because it's certainly a big ticket item for the developers. So both of those would be very helpful. Thank you.
And it's not so much the city that is requesting that as Washington County. Washington County has requested the right turn lane.
This would be for the improvements on Imperial Avenue.
Okay.
That
Nathan?
was in the engineer's memo, as something that the engineer commented on
Okay.
requiring.
Could you address that, please?
Yeah, traditionally and with all developments, when a road has to be improved, it is the responsibility of the developer to do that at 100%. And we'll be happy to work even more closely with the development to see if there's any additional ways we can help them figure out how to do that. And in this case, we're not asking for curb and gutter
No.
or anything like that. We're just basically a chip seal, which is probably the most inexpensive way you can go.
And is there, I'd be curious to know, I don't know, what is Imperial Avenue on any scheduled future, public works or maintenance projects for the city?
No,
I don't think so.
no, it's not.
Yeah, that's down by what I call a big swamp. So I doubt that there would be further improvements. Just as we have asked the developers of larger and more complicated properties to make all the improvements necessary to make sure that we have police, fire, et cetera, access. Those are water and sewer and everything else, the responsibility of the developer. So in this case, y'all are the developer. Okay? Any other questions of applicant and their engineer? And this one does not require a public hearing because it's strictly a concept plan review. Thoughts and comments about this from the commissioners?
Well, as much as, kudos to you guys. I think that your plan and bringing family together while preserving something is very heartwarming, and I really love that idea. I mean, I have visions like that for myself. I think of something like this, like maybe 40 years down the road, when somebody in your family might sell that property, what happens to these easements? And now it's not your family that's driving on that roundabout or that road. And how something like that gets managed when sometimes people don't get along. But I really love this idea. It's really, really nice. So tell me you're gonna be there 150 years.
That's the plan. Yeah, I mean, our plan is to keep it in the family at least while we're alive. That's the plan, and we would put that in our wills too, for our kids.
Yeah, it's not guaranteed, but
Yeah,
ideally we would go to children.
Yeah.
Keep it all.
Other questions from the commissioners? Yes, sir.
Nathan, I'm looking at the page 78, and I see the blue dotted lines, which I'm trying to figure out exactly what those are on that page alongside of Imperial. And it looks to me like if you're coming in off of, and this is where I'm confused, if you're coming in off of 200th Street North, that's where the parcel begins, correct?
Can you repeat the page number?
78.
78, thank you.
It's this map, Nathan.
Gotcha.
So you
Thank
see
you.
on 200th Street north right there, the blue dotted line?
Yeah, it appears that this is this is associated with the engineer's memo. That would be that would be required for public right-of-way for
Okay.
Imperial
So
Avenue.
that is the property we're talking about, though, coming off of 200th and along Imperial.
Correct, so this
And-
area here.
And it looks like, as I'm scrolling down, oh, God darn it, if you scroll down, sorry, mine disappeared here. Where it ends down there, where the other dotted blue line ends down there, does the parcel continue past that?
This parcel, no. So if we go to GIS, you can see where the extent of that parcel ends.
Okay, so that's where that second dotted blue line ends, and that's where the road ends.
Correct.
That's why we're looking at the shared driveway.
Correct. So if we
Okay.
go back to this is where that area,
Yep.
that dotted line would end approximately here, and
Yep.
that is where this private access enters the
Okay,
area.
okay. That's what I was confused about. Thank you.
I had a chance to receive some comments today from the fire chief on the acceptability of this, and it does appear that gravel could be permitted according to that conversation, but there would be some, obviously, standards to which the driveways would need to meet to support fire service.
And other than the size variances that they're asking for, what else would we be looking at for
So,
variances?
the only variance that would be required for this project is actually just that access variance. The lots meet all of the other standards, and that was part of kind of what was mentioned as some of the ongoing iterations of this plan to ensure that the subject property meets the zoning requirements. So the only one outstanding would be that variance for the public access.
Just to clarify, the circles on there are indicating proposed
These are-
houses?
Yeah, proposed home sites on the property.
And obviously, they're well and septic.
Yes, this area is served by well and septic, it is not served by city
The
utilities.
wetlands in there, they have enough place for their primary and their alternative sites?
Yes, they're doing some of that research now, you can see as part of this concept submittal.
Now, if this is the other roads are a private road, would garbage collection be on the Imperial Road and everybody would go up there? Is that what the expectation would be? for
I don't
garbage
know the answer
collection?
to you.
I believe that's actually what would happen, yes.
Yeah, because
Yes,
the, the private companies won't go on the private road.
Right.
Republic won't go on a private road.
And then is there enough room there for, if that's gonna be a dead end, is there enough room for a vehicle that large to turn around instead of backing up?
As far as I know, this area is currently served by Republic Services.
Okay.
Yes.
So you can see Imperial has an area potentially for turnaround here.
Okay.
If I remember right, that was a 320 that was for sale? That was that's what you bought?
320 acres?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 349. There's a couple, there's other parcels back there.
Okay. Commissioners, are there other questions? And if not, what are your thoughts?
It's a good start. I like the project. I'm sure you're very excited to get going on it, and yeah.
I think it's a good start.
Since this is just a concept plan, we don't take an official vote on it. So I think that you've got verbal support here as you move forward. Okay? Do you have any questions, further questions for us?
No, no, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, good luck, and welcome to the community.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on our agenda is the concept plan review for the Goodview Preserve. This is item 10 on our agenda, and again, this is another concept review. Nathan?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This item is a concept plan for a development, Goodview Preserve. I'm sorry, I'm bringing up the title page here of the staff report. So staff, this is another development that staff have been working on with the applicants for a number of months, developing further concepts and ultimately ending in what you see here with the staff report. This development is located north of County Road 50 or 202nd Street in the city. It is in an area that is zoned mixed residential, single family, and townhouse, the MXR1 district, with which we are very familiar. The future land use for this area is low to medium density residential, which aligns with that zoning district. So I'm going to bring the sketch plan here for your. This is a recent iteration of this concept plan that was received after the staff report was published. But is fairly similar to what you reviewed in the staff report. So I just wanted to clarify that. This development is approximately 38.4 acres with about 7 acres of wetland that run through it, kind of north to south you see on sort of the eastern portion of the development. Again, concept plan. This appears to be definitely in line with the land uses required in the MXR1, which is residential. In terms of consistency with the comprehensive plan, this development appears to have, as proposed, about a net density of 2.8 units per acre, which is really close to that guidance in the low to medium density future land use area. That guidance, for your information, is 3 to 6 units per acre. So I'm going to go back to the staff report here and just briefly cover, this is going to be associated with a planned unit development request. As you're familiar, that process is used to grant deviations to the city's standards. And so here you can see on this table, which is in the staff report listed, the various standards to which the developer will request deviations. Those standards are lot area, 8,000 is proposed by the developer, lot width 65 feet wide is proposed, a front yard setback of 25 feet, a side yard setback for properties of 7.5 feet, which would be 15 feet between structures, and no rear yard setback is proposed, or sorry, no deviation would be needed for rear yard setbacks. There would also, in addition to those listed, there would need to be a deviation granted for the unit mix. In the MXR1, it is required that 60% of the overall units be a single family, more or less like a traditional lot of, the 80-foot standard. And 40% of the units are permitted to be either a detached townhome or an attached twin home. So this development proposes 51 units and of single-family lots and 38 units of attached townhomes. So I'm going to go back to the sketch plan here, and you can see the townhomes or the twin homes rather, are located in the western corner of this development. You can see this development is sort of bisected again by that wetland, with single-family homes making up the rest of the development in the southwestern corner and the northeastern. You can see on this concept plan here that there are trail connections being proposed throughout this development, which will link the various sides of this development, but also the developments surrounding. The purpose of these trails is to provide access east-west with the green trail here. The cursor is running along. That will serve as access to a park, which is located in the southeastern corner here. The park is proposed to be about 3.5 acres. That measurement there provided by the developer. So speaking of parkland, this development would have a requirement using the total net developable area of 3.14 acres. So it does appear that the park area proposed does exceed the required parkland dedication. The city engineer did provide a number of comments in regard to this development, and that engineering memo is provided in the staff report. There are a number of comments, but one of them very recently addressed by the developer was an east-west trail connection on the southwestern part of this development that would create a more or less a straight bituminous trail running along this line by the cursor here, and then ultimately connecting with a pedestrian crossing on Goodview Avenue. So it'd run on the southern portion of these lots. The developer is proposing that the sidewalk here would meet that same requirement. So staff have not reviewed for that specific comment at this time. I just wanted to let the commission know that that is something that has been discussed. Other than that, I don't have anything particular from engineering to highlight for you. The staging of this development is proposed to, the project will begin in spring and summer of this year, pending entitlements, of course, and then will be developed over time. The next steps would be a preliminary PD and preliminary plat application, followed by a final PD and plat. I would defer to the applicant and developer, Central Homes. They are here this evening and can provide an overview to the Planning Commission of this development. Other than that, staff recommend that the Planning Commission provide feedback to the developer on the suitability of this request.
Nathan, just so that I am clear, basically, we had a fairly extensive discussion about significantly downsizing our requirements for lot sizes in MXR. And we said no, that basically we were not going to discuss that further. However, it appears that that is exactly what this development is requesting. Just so that I'm clear.
Yes, so there has been, an ongoing conversation, obviously, at the Planning Commission with respect to the MXR1 zoning district and consideration to amending various standards to increase flexibility or allow for smaller lot sizes. So, yeah.
Commissioners, do you have some questions of Nathan?
Nathan, I have one. You mentioned a percentage of single-family homes versus townhomes in this PUD proposal. What was that percentage again?
Let me find that.
40?
Yeah, so the requirement in code is 60/40. It's looking like we're going over 40% attached townhomes in terms of the overall unit count. So that would require an additional deviation. For what it's worth, the applicant also provided a narrative in the staff report that you were able to review, so.
And then one other question, Nathan. The property that is south of the proposed concept plan here and east of Granada behind there, I know is a future planned development. Did we already look at that project?
That is correct, yes. That one is called Birchwood Estates.
Yep.
It's, if you're looking at the cursor, it's
Yep.
sort of the southern and eastern corner of this map here. The city has received a preliminary plat and preliminary PUD application for that development.
We saw that? at
That
your
was
planning?
reviewed at the concept plan phase.
Oh, that's right, okay.
And we will be, staff is currently reviewing that project for a preliminary plat.
Okay. The first thing that jumps out at me is, obviously, one of the things we're struggling with is, the smaller lot sizes. And, over in Headwaters, that's a little bit different story. But when you look at this concept here compared to the lots south of this neighborhood and north of this neighborhood, there's quite a difference in the size of those single-family lots. And there's quite a lot of the townhomes put in there, the doubles. I'm not sure if I were the homeowners in those other projects, if I'd be happy about those smaller lot sizes coming in, but just food for thought.
Other commissioners? We spent a lot of time agonizing over changes, and we realize that we have significant small lots and PUD opportunities over in Headwaters. This is exactly what I did not want to see. in these areas. If some of the lots were bigger, I might be willing to consider the town's, the twin home request. That might make some sense to me, but there is too much crammed for me and the way that we have talked about the look and the feel that we want for Forest Lake into this area. That's one person on the planning commission. So, are there other questions for Nathan? And then we'll let, would you like to speak about this? Come on down.
My name is Ashley D'Alessandro, and I'm here on behalf of Central Homes for the Good View Preserve project. And I'm also here with David Patberg as well, so he may answer some questions if necessary. And so I'll go ahead and maybe start by addressing some of the comments that you all had, as well as some of the staff comments from the comments that were before. In regards to not connecting that trail on the southwest portion of the site, our reasoning for that was just due to the fact that it's going to be going on Goodview Avenue. We wanted to direct the pedestrian traffic up to the sidewalk so that there's one trail connecting one connection to Goodview Avenue. We just thought that would be a little bit more from a safety perspective and just the natural flow of things to go that direction. We also thought the neighbors on the Headwaters side probably would not want a trail in their backyard as well. So that's just our reasoning in regards to that change. And then in regards to, there was some questions in regards to stormwater ponds. This site is very low, so we had a few more stormwater ponds than engineering probably was planned or thinking would be on the site. And they were thinking there would be 2 to 3 ponds. And the reason why we've done that is because the site is so low, we're really trying to work with the natural elements of the site and make sure that the project's able to have walkout and lookout basements and not really disrupting the land too much from a grading perspective. And then there was also discussion about a potential regional pond between our project as well as the Birchwood Estates project, which is the proposed project to the south. Our engineer is Pioneer Engineering, and they are the engineer for Birchwood Estates to the south as well. And so we've had some discussions with them, and just due to the wetlands being to the south and the parkland, they're thinking that is not feasible to do a regional pond area. And then from the unit mix, we differed from the MXR1 code just a bit there, because in our experience from having an association, just for the long-term success of the association, we found that having a little bit more homes to make sure that the association is successful long-term is helpful. Just because, if you have a smaller association, a lot of times there's not homeowners that want to participate in the association management the HOA board of directors. So our thought is just by having more of a mix there, or more units, it'll just help with the long-term viability of an HOA. And then the other thing in regards to
Just David Patberg with Central Homes. Thanks for having us here. I've just was listening. That's why we have 2 of us come, so one can listen as we present. I just want to make sure I understand correctly if what Nathan was talking about is there's some density designation at a high level, like comp plan level, trying to get to 3 to 6 units per acre. Am I missing something there?
Yeah, that's the future land use category, low to medium residential. That would be the guidance of unit of density in those areas.
So that was one thing we had in our mind as we were playing this out, trying to get to 3, and we didn't even get to 3. So I'm aware of that. And so then, even though we know it's MXR1, and we've heard about this concern with lot sizes, that was one thing that we were having. The other one is, in that central area that's dividing the 2 neighborhoods is a wetland complex. And we've had a tremendous amount of conversation with the watershed districts, the wetland consultants, the TEP panel, about trying to keep that intact as much as possible. They say I'm not a wetland expert, but they say this is a very nice complex, and so that's part of it. And so those couple things, the wetland area and this minimum 3 units to the acre, were the two thoughts.
No, that's a maximum that we're pushing.
3 to 6 is
Right.
what I thought.
Would be the highest density.
Oh, then I read it wrong. Sorry, I'm looking to Nathan to say.
Yeah, that would be the comprehensive plan. We've had this has been part of that MXR1 discussion, is to say the comp plan guides these areas as 3 to 6 unit per acre. That's the target. As we've discussed in the past, the city is responsible on the aggregate for meeting its density goals. So some developments may not meet that density range. That can be made up on the aggregate through density elsewhere in the city. That has been the interpretation.
Headwaters.
And that's okay. I mean, and maybe I misunderstood. When I heard 3 to 6, I heard 3 was on the bottom end, and I might have read that wrong, so I apologize if I did. But that's how we read it. We were trying to hit 3 and then preserve this wetland complex, and so that's why we felt like it made sense to come in with a PUD application, and these couple items are why we're at a PUD looking for that flexibility. But it sounds like what I'm hearing from the commission is they don't want to go PUD, they'd rather go standard zoning, which then, and so you're not looking for any of that flexibility. Am I reading that correctly?
And I'm going to speak for me. I'm going to ask the rest of the commissioners to speak for themselves. Realize you have some challenges with the piece of property. Realize that you have some challenges with the wetland. But trying to make up the density for the entire parcel in the western portion of it does not fit with the surrounding neighborhoods and with the surrounding feel of what we've looked at for Forest Lake. I think that if lots were a little bit larger, I might be willing to consider, as I said, the twin home concept. But where you've got up on the curve on the north and west, that curve, are those all twin homes or are those single family homes?
The north and west is twin homes, and those actually back up to row townhomes to the north. And so that's why we put that density there, because the neighbors would be other attached product. So we were trying to match kind of the neighboring's density. If we're going to put an attached product of density, we were looking to get adjacent to the existing.
But if you look at the density and the packing of the attached homes to the north and compare it to where you're at there on that curve, that is significantly different. When you talk, I'd like to explore, talk to me about how you perceive the HOA for this area.
Great question. I think Ashley missed one point, that we proposed to have an HOA just for the attached, not for the whole neighborhood. So just the attached twin homes would have an HOA over them. Since the roads are public, those twin home HOA would just cover lawn and snow, architectural control, exterior maintenance, things of that, but there's no private road. And so we look at the HOA just for the twins. And what we've learned in the past is and so there are 38 units in that. And if we go down from that 38 units, you get into 30 units or something to that effect. It's not every member of an HOA takes the responsibility seriously and wants to be on a board. So sometimes it's hard to get 5 people to man a board when you're at 30, 25. We had one HOA at 24, and as I've been in touch with that city since, it can be a challenge. And so it's just a practical challenge from that perspective.
Our experience at Forest Lake is when we have twin homes of this size, they're going to end up being rental units.
Okay.
And so renters are not typically great HOA folks.
Yep.
And I'm thinking of some other areas in the city where we've got twin homes or where we've gotten this kind of a density. I do expect that much of this will be rental.
Just to be clear, We are the builder as well as the developer. And as a builder, as we're building townhomes and other product like this, we're not finding investors. I think the price points are just too high. Not to say that the next buyer might be an investor or this buyer might live there for a year or two and then become an investor. But we just don't see investors buying from us. But your point is well taken. But I wanted to just share our experience there.
Commissioners, what are your thoughts on this project?
Yeah, we'll just go down the line. We're open to PUDs. Obviously, when you come in with something like this, that's about the only way we're gonna be able to get it done. I totally see your challenges. It's a piece of land that's been sitting there that we'd love to see developed. There are challenges with the wetlands, as you've indicated. I guess two questions I have. When you talk about your twins, what is your price point you're thinking? I mean, just doesn't, I'm, not holding you to it. What are you estimating? We have a similar product that's being built in St. Michael, and the base price is about, I think it's $329 for base, and then options up from there, depending on what the buyer wants. And so we're seeing $20,000 to $30,000 in options, so it's a mid-3 price point for the twins. And what are you thinking, just again, not holding you to it, price points for the single family with this size home site? Upper threes, depending on options. I think pretty regularly things will hit 4, maybe even a little over 4. And you would be open to continuing the trail system over to Goodview if that was necessary? That's as we think about bringing in a PUD. What we are very well of, it's a negotiation, and so to highlight what the city's getting for this flexibility. What's proposing is that east-west connection that goes through that central, I'm calling it an open space because there's wetlands and an open space, to have a trail go through that area to connect over to the new road. And then right now, according to ordinance, the parkland is required to be, I think it was 3.1, and we're about 3.5, a little over 3.5. So we're giving additional parkland that is upland usable parkland. And then finally, that open space in the middle, we are not thinking to plat that into lots, and so that would be additional land that would be as open space, that whole central area. Not that it would be active park, but it would be, that's the proposal to dedicate that to the city. There's some upland in there, there's some wetland. It's kind of mixed and matched through there. So those are kind of the offers to the city to allow for the flexibility of lot sizes and setbacks and things of that sort. Tell me what you foresee in the park. What would the developer be willing to do in that park? Dedicate the land. Okay, just the land. Okay.
Yeah, so the Parkland dedication requirement is 3.14, obviously,
Right.
so there would be no ability to require necessarily, per the ordinance, cash and lien.
Okay.
Now I've got a question. I'm sorry to interrupt the rest of the commissioners. So in terms of that area in the middle, upland, swampland, whatever, are you expecting that the HOA will be taking care of that and will be doing the mowing and the tree shagging and handling all those ponds in there? They will be responsible for
The proposal right now was to have that be dedicated to the city. That's what's on the table. Where the trail goes through it, I think that makes sense for the city to own, maintain, that type of thing. But we're open to having the HOA take some type of responsibility. I have a slight bit of concern because it's not directly adjacent to any twin homes. And so that might cause a confusion. I always think of what is it gonna look like when I'm gone in 5 or 10 years? Mm-hmm. And so I worry about the HOA, quote, remembering that is their responsibility. You can put everything you want in the documents, but at the end of the day. So our proposal is to have the city take that area. We're open to conversation about what HOA maintenance requirement might be in there, but I just want to share that sense of concern of when it's not adjacent to the lots, it is easily forgotten. Thank you.
I really don't have anything to add. I do concur about the lot size. I don't think it really conforms too much with the surrounding properties, but I understand the situation too that you're working with. So, but yeah, it just looks a little bit compact right now, from what I can see. So that's about all I got.
I'm just a little bit concerned about parking. I don't know what size garages they're going to be, if they're gonna be doubles or whatever, but it seems like everybody these days wants to have 2 and 3 cars, or their stuff inside the garage, and then the cars out on the, out in the driveway. And then if there's that many homes on one street and people use the street parking, especially around those curves, that could get pretty tight. And it's all together in one spot.
Just to be clear, so the twin homes, it's proposed to be 2-car garages. We should have brought elevations. We have them. I mean, we're the builder. We know what we're proposing. The single-family lots on 65-foot wide lots, I always, from a builder's perspective, I always start with the house, and then I back into what the lot is. We have 50-foot, 50 wide houses that all have a 3-car option. We don't always include the 3-car in what's built, but we typically plan for it. And so they're 50 feet wide with a 3-car, so that means 40 feet wide without the 3-car. And when you have a 50-foot wide, 7.5 side yards, that's where we get to a 65-foot wide lot. So that's how I come. I start with the house and then come to the lot. That's how we end up at 65. I think it's coincidental that that's what Mr. Brueggemann and Mr. Dobbs were looking for. I think it's coincidental, but we start with the house because we know what house we want. So the single family would all have a 3-car option. I'm not saying all buyers would choose it. And then the twin homes would all be a 2-car option. 2-car house without a third option, just the way it's designed. Percentage-wise, you've done a number of times, number of areas. How many put the 3rd-car garage on? All of them. I want to be clear. I don't want to overpromise something and then we're out there building and one buyer says, nope, I'm a craftsman, I'm going to add it after you guys build the house. But we get continual requests for as much garage space as you can have. Well, I don't think this lineup has it, but we have one house that has a 3rd car, it looks like 2-car with a 3rd car tandem and then a 4th car wide option. And people like that. I don't know if we've determined if that one's coming here, but yeah, the more garages, the better. And typically we see 100% of them adding that 3rd stall.
Patrick, what is the capability of Public Works to take care of that large wild area?
Yeah, I'll have to ask the Public Works Director. It's a big area. We'd have to see what our responsibilities. The other real concern we have is 9 ponds. The city would have to take care of 9 ponds, so we'll have to work through that a little bit. That's being that ponds usually get turned over to the city unless, in this case, the HOA is going to take them all, which I don't know if we do that or not. But 9 ponds is a lot for us to take maintenance on.
And none of them are connected.
Yeah, I haven't seen if they're, they don't look like they're connected. I'm not sure. I haven't seen any of that work.
Commissioners, any other thoughts?
Yeah, I like the east side. I like the center. I like Granada, the stuff kind of to the east of Granada on the cul-de-sac. But then it really gets congested. And I understand your dilemma there, but I know it affects cost and everything else. So other than that, I like it personally.
And I understand the need of the developer to make the profit, but on this particular PUD request, quite frankly, the city is getting stuck with a lot of future costs. A lot of future costs that I'm not sure that the tax revenue from the planned homes will recover.
Do you mean by the ponds and that middle open space as extra cost? Okay, I just wanted to be clear.
We're gonna have to take care of that. I mean, that's gonna be our responsibility, and, that's gonna be a chunk.
Yeah, and there's probably not a better way to divert water because it's so low in there.
Right.
Our other option is to really reshape it, I mean, to really do a pretty intense grading project. And we thought the land was quite nice, and having that central being open space, we were not wanting to do that. We did have a conversation with the developer to the south and their engineer, and it's tough. It's not an easy fix to just say, let's consolidate ponds.
Okay. Anything else? This is not something that we would take a vote on tonight?
I understand, but I would love to have a better understanding. For us to go to the next step is a very big, to go to preliminary plat is a big undertaking, and it sounds like I have a split commission here of, if this came before like this, that it would be a split vote. Am I reading the crowd right?
Well, you've got 3 folks that aren't here tonight.
Got it.
A future person and 2 folks that are not here tonight. But I think that you're familiar with our discussion on the MXR and changing that. You mentioned Mr. Bergman's property. That is part of an existing PUD that has been planned for a very long time.
15 years, it sounds like.
Yeah.
I remember.
Which will be a lot of density. And I'm just, this doesn't feel like where Forest Lake has asked to be.
I would love to see it done. I mean, I think it's a piece of land that we've been waiting to do something with for years. I'm struggling with the west side of it.
Yep.
Mostly lot width, or also the 60-40 split? Mostly, if I look at the south side of that project, you know, your dozen or so lots there, if maybe those were larger, and if maybe the ones across the street, you know, I think those are pretty good. It's mainly in my mind, it's the lots on the south side. I think if those were similar to the houses that they back up to, you know, which means you're gonna lose probably 2 or 3, I would be much more in favor of it. Personally.
And Nathan and Patrick, I would like Parks, Lakes, and Trails to tell us what they think of this and how that wild area fits into their future plans and thoughts for passive open space recreation.
Yeah, once we finish the final configuration, we'll bring it to them to talk to them about that.
Would it be possible to bring them this and not talk about lot size and just look at the trails and open space? Or is that
Well,
premature for
I'm
them?
not sure what you're going to have to do if you're going to have to change lot size and all that, and how that impacts the rest of the development. So we'd rather go, before we go to the Parks, Lakes, and Trails, have a closer to final iteration of this.
What I'm more interested in is, are they looking for a piece of land to be set aside and essentially wild with no city maintenance and what will come of that over the next 20 years?
Yeah.
Or are they looking for something that they want the city to have, something large like that, and manage as an open space, passive, but more a managed woodland or a managed savanna complex?
Yeah, I would think that the middle space is always just going to be a wild, unmaintained as much as possible piece of property, because there's not a lot you should be fooling around with there, so. But we'll bring it back to the staff level and to eventually to Parks and Trails and have them take a look at that.
And my concern on that is that in the future, the developments around it are gonna say, wait a minute, we've got to deal with something there because we're getting skunks and we're getting raccoons and we're getting critters and varmints and undesirables. We're getting things in there that aren't as compatible with a fairly dense set of neighborhoods.
Correct, and I think a lot of the issues brought up by the engineer also have to be addressed before we get to preliminary plating and all that. So I think we've got a little bit of way to go here on this one.
Chair Young, are you open to a comment from
Absolutely.
Julie? Go ahead and unmute yourself. Make sure you say your name and your address. Hold on, just a second. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. My name is Julie Severson. My address is 6511 207th Street North. And my property backs up to all of this. This is the first time I've seen the concept map. And I do have quite a lot of concerns. The first one is, I'd like to reiterate what Susan Young and a few other people have said, is there's a lot of very small lots in there. There are twin homes in there, but I think Nathan had mentioned detached townhomes. Of the units that are shown, how many are detached townhomes?
I can answer that really quickly.
And I also, okay.
Sorry to interrupt. There are no detached townhomes proposed. There are only single-family homes and attached townhomes proposed, and you can see those here on the concept plan.
Okay. And I know I had contacted the city previously, and I do see that the part of the wildlife area is intact, and that was one of my huge concerns, that we have a lot of migratory birds that use this area. Not only the mallards, the Kennet geese, we have ring-necked pheasants that are active out here in my backyard as we speak, and we also have sandhill cranes. There's also a lot of other wildlife. There's coyote, deer. There's a lot of wildlife out here, and I'm concerned that they're all going to be displaced. I know that
They will.
developers got to make their money too. But I mean, this is going to have a huge effect for a long time.
Anything else?
So, no, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming. Appreciate
Appreciate it.
taking a look at this. And we'll look forward to the next iteration.
Great, thank you.
Okay, commissioners, we're tending toward the end. Under other, we have two council members in the room. Would either or both of you like to provide some updates?
Just a couple updates. We approved on Monday Commissioner Young and Commissioner Miller's continued service on the Planning Commission, and want to thank you for that continued service. And Mayor Bain announced that there is an opening with Commissioner Batty's resignation, and we thanked him as well. Last night was the downtown plan. I'll have to have Patrick give you an update on that. Unfortunately, at last minute wasn't able to attend, but you can still comment on the downtown plan online. And then we also approved Parks, Lakes, and Trails, the Belts Park master plan, to go ahead to obtain quotes on that work.
Where can we take a look at the Belts Park master plan?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not sure. We'll try to get it up online or send it to you. That's a good point. We've just kind of finished the master plan revision, and so we'll get that to you.
With my hat on as Rotary President, we raised a significant amount of money, and we're thinking today about whether or not we should be putting that money in other places, because we have not heard anything since 2019 when we raised the money.
Yeah, let me kind of hope you give you an update here on that. We've finished what we believe is the final master plan design, brought it to the Parks and Trails Commission. We had the council authorize us to continue that process. We will bring back to council in, I believe, the last meeting of February, a resolution to apply for a DNR grant. They're open space grants up to $300,000. We're also asking for preliminary quotes for playground equipment and other equipment that we may need to have there. so that we can better have an idea what we can afford and what we can't afford. Once we do that, we will, and get past the grant portion, we'll put together specs and bids, and try to determine what the true cost of the park's going to be, with a hope construction beginning, not sure we'll make the fall, but definitely in 2023. So we know that this has been sitting on the shelf for a while, and we are trying to kick that a little bit into gear here, so.
Something that was very important to Rotary was that park is really not accessible to
Yes.
to elders, to folks with strollers, to folks in wheelchairs.
Yes.
And that was the part that was very, very important to us to happen.
Yeah, and that's a part of the plan. It will be accessible in most places.
Thank you.
That's
Anything
it.
else, ma'am?
That is all I have.
She said it all.
Okay,
What'd I say?
okay, okay. Patrick?
No, I was, attended virtually to the meeting last night, so I think from what I could tell and hear, it was pretty successful. We had interesting online chats there while we had the breakout sessions. But we do have, the ability to still comment on the downtown plan. I think it's moving forward in a good pace. Again, I always tell everybody the challenge is once we're done with the plan, how we implement the plan, how we afford the plan. So the EDA, the council, and staff have a long way to go to figure out how that's all going to happen. But I think it's going really well, and I think we had a good, for having a 15 below zero day, I think we had a pretty good participation at City Hall and online. So.
Nathan?
We are, as you can see, in development review season, so that's what the majority of your planning staff's time is being spent on at the moment. So really, that's all I have to say right now. We have an upcoming application for the development we talked about, Birchwood Estates. They presented a concept plan to you last fall. A couple other potential commercial developments somewhere at the concept stage, possibly. So there's some exciting developments, hopefully forthcoming.
Karen?
I have nothing further to add.
Commissioner?
Nothing.
Nothing for me.
Nope, I'm good, thank you.
And I have nothing. I would look for a motion to adjourn, please.
Motion
Unless
to
y'all
adjourn.
want to stay.
No, I make that motion to adjourn.
Oh, you made the motion. Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all very, very much tonight. I appreciate you helping me out and bearing with me.
Good job.